go through a few slides on our trip out. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to play a video that explains why we are all in our Strive shirt and what Strive meant for the mission trip. So, as you can see, Bob's taking a picture. We had a very large group going out. There was 17 of us, 13 years. This is the biggest mission trip that Calvary, I think, has been in a really long time. And it was just putting the kids in the car. They had so much fun. So as you see, we did 3 different states. And yes, I gotta look because I don't know how I programmed it. Can never go anywhere without a bucket stop. We only had one on this mission trip. Last year I think we had 4. And we only went to Oklahoma. So then we got to Amarillo. So we left here, as you saw, at 6 a.m. and we went to Amarillo. In Amarillo, they got to go to the Big Texan for dinner. No, they did not get to do the 72-ounce steak. We were not paying for that. But it was such a fun place. If you have not been, it is a really cool place to stop for dinner.
This is your call. This is your life. And only you can make the choice.
So the ministry that went on in Next Step was a nationwide ministry that had been thoroughly thought out and backed by this man, and then they had college students working at different locations across the U.S. in Alaska, Colorado, Texas, like San Angelo, Texas. And these college kids would go out there for 10 weeks of their summer. Instead of going and doing an internship or whatever, they'd go do this ministry and be a part, much like senior staff are at Camp Allen. And so we got to meet some of them and work at them at the different work sites throughout Colorado. Some of us were painting houses. Oh, sorry. Oh, they're looking at us, sorry. Every morning we would start with an individual devotional. No, a lot of people aren't morning people. You like your own space. So we would give the kids their own space. They would have a booklet, and they would go do some internal, like, thought exercises and prayers to see where they stood on their own terms with Christ. Then we would go out and make our lunch and eat breakfast and head out to the work sites. And Suzette and Brandy's team, although I know Brandy did not want to paint, they were at a paint site all week. They did so great. None of her clothes were ruined, right? All of them are ruined, yeah. Okay, well, that's fair. That's why we don't like, But anyways, we went out to this great house and met some great people that we'll talk about, the kids will talk about. And got to do a lot of painting and really made a difference in these people's lives. Because these are people who, they can't paint the house. You know, they're on Social Security, they're disabled or not able to get around as easily as they used to, and they can't be climbing up ladders to go paint the second story of their house, which greatly needed it.
So this is a funny one. This is where the day we decided, because we are live, we do have to be on the mic. This is where the kids decided, let's put paint on us. So half of my team was blue and half was white. And that's where you see all the different paint all over the kids. I think there was more paint on them at times than, and Brooke is shaking her head, than there was on the house.
Well, let's see, do y'all remember how many of y'all were team blue? Yeah, and then how many of y'all were team white? Dang, yeah, there was another church mixed in there, so you know they had some support.
That's the karate picture that we had them pose and like they were gonna karate each other. So this is the ending of it. We're close to the end, so we're almost done. I will say, I really want to give kudos to Brooke on my side, on Brandy's on my side. Brooke had a fear of ladders. If you look, she is on a 24-foot ladder that day. So, and so she would go up and climb up those ladders. And then this is the ending with our homeowner. And the gentleman in the back, you'll hear from the kids about what he did for everybody on that site.
Yeah, and so Charlene's site, so there was 3 different sites that we were working at. 2 of them were painting, but Charlene's site was also partially organizing and cleaning up for a family in need. Here you can see Molly and Amy and Bridget were all there. We had a little girls team out there scraping off paint. So it was like an apartment community for families dealing with.
Transitional housing.
Yeah, transitional housing. No, that's a fair point.
Yeah, they're on apartment.
But that means they were working across an entire apartment complex. So there was plenty of work to be had, and they were working nonstop through the Colorado heat, which a lot of the locals were complaining about. But 85 degrees with 30% humidity sounds pretty good. With some shade and a breeze, you're all right. And then we would get afternoon showers around 2 or 3, and it would cool it off. I actually got caught in a hailstorm on the first day there. It was kind of crazy. Yeah, and some of the kids would shuffle around to the different groups to get mixed in with different churches, different people within our own groups. They could kind of learn from different experiences. Yeah, there's some paint on it. And then the site that I worked at was with the young men. So we had Sam and Conrad were there, and we were doing some heavy lifting. We were building a retaining wall. The first day we were there, they delivered 6 pallets of these stones, and we had to manually move all the stones to the backyard. Luckily, the week before had done all the digging, so they dug out where the wall was going to be. We just had to level the ground and put the first few layers. So you can see here, we started putting some drainage in behind it, filling it in with gravel. See, like I was taking an action shot over there. I was making sure that I had plenty of excuse not to do work, which is great photography, you know. Harrison actually helped us out there. How many days were you out there? 2? 3 days? Oh, so you only went to the paint 1 day. That's right. Yeah, so we had all the young men out there, except for, Mason, Bobby. That'll be you next year. That'll be but we were gluing the stones together, and we had a lot of older, young adults from other churches as well, which is really cool to see kids from Illinois and from, actually it was just the Iowa kids, right? Yeah, what was it, Sioux City?
Yeah,
Sioux City, Iowa, which is a town of like, I don't know, 80,000 people, so a very different perspective in like area that they grew up in. And then we had our throne pictures, which everyone got to pose nicely for, except I don't know if you have my picture in here. That's good, because as we were taking my picture, Sam like knocked water all over me, and it was a full chaos moment. It was great though, and we had a lot of fun. And then one day our site was actually asked to go work at a food pantry. And this food pantry was set up in a way that the families would come in, they'd grab a grocery cart, and then they'd get to walk through the aisles, and they'd be allowed certain items from each section. So it was still like grocery shopping in a way, but it was in a way that they got to choose what they wanted, and they weren't just given a box of like, here's the food that you can have. You can actually go through and have some selection of the process. So we had kids handing out different meats, different veggies, different fruits, restocking the shelves, like working with going and getting the carts and bringing the carts back in after they were out at the cars. And they, yeah, that's a good point. So the retaining wall was at the back of a house, and this house was owned by a man who's in his late 70s, early 80s, I think, and he's the CEO or the head or whatever you want to say of the food pantry. And he hasn't taken a salary at the food pantry in 30 years. Hasn't any money. So it's all been a full nonprofit, not taking any money of his own. So when he started having these yard issues, it became an infringement on the actual food pantry itself. So we spent most of the week out there working on the retaining wall, and as a reward, we got to go see the ministry that this supported. In the AC. Well, you say that, but Harrison and I were going and getting carts most of the day, so it was definitely still outside in the concrete. But it was still a really cool experience to actually get to talk to the locals, see the people in need, go talk to them as they're unloading their carts into the car, talk to them as they're going through the line and waiting for stuff. But seeing the people who are in need there and seeing how friendly they were and how open they were to talk to the youth was a really cool experience for everybody. Yeah, every day we would have a lunch devotional. So, you get to the site at 9, and then at 10:15 you take lunch. No, I'm kidding. Then you would go until about noon. We'd take lunch. We'd find some shade and take that time to discuss scripture and the lesson and different ways that we were impacting the community and how that was related to what we were talking about in small groups and in the lessons each night. Then on one night, we were invited to go have dinner at a family services. So this was a house on like a 2-acre plot. It was like a 3-story house, and there was some community housing nearby for women who needed a home where they could be safe and raise their kids in a protected area. And so these women would have a class on Monday night that was a 3-hour class to help educate them on finances, business, helping them get jobs, whatever it may be. But during that time, you needed some sort of childcare. So we all got to go have lunch and play on this playground and throw the frisbee and play basketball and do dress up and doll plays and puppet shows and all that with all these kids that grew up in these really tough homes, which we don't always see that every day. I know growing up, I didn't see that a lot, and this may be some of the only exposure that our kids get to those types of environments. And so getting that experience, learning how to work with those kids, it was really cool to see how ready the kids of Calvary were to jump in and help and be listening ears and be helping hands. And then, let's see. Oh yeah, so we were on this hill. So we were in Colorado Springs, and for those of you who haven't been in Colorado Springs, Pikes Peak is out in the west, and you can see it from anywhere in the town. And we were on this hill on the east side, so we had a great view, but at the top of the hill, there was this mountain. And I was asking the college kids, I was like, have any of y'all hiked up there yet? They're like, no, we haven't gone up there. So I was like, all right, we're going to check it out. So I went in and scoped it out, and I was like, it seems pretty safe. So I get all the kids, and I'm like, we're going to go hike there one afternoon. We're going to go up to the top of this hill, see this great panoramic view. And we get up there, things are going great, and then they find a trail to the top that I didn't know existed. I thought we were just going to go to an outlook, but I was like, this is a clear trail. Like, let's go on and go ahead and go up here. And as we're going up there, as a kid, I was very accident prone. So my parents can attest to that. I've been at the hospital quite a few times. We did not have to go to the hospital. It was much less than that. But Brad slipped a little bit, and luckily, a cactus cushioned his fall. So we had to make sure he got down the hill safely, and we had some volunteers who were so kind to help him back down as the rest of us proceeded up to the beautiful view. Sorry, Brad, you missed it. But he had a procedure done to remove about 30 spines from his arm. Over 100? I wasn't there. Suzette pulled them all out. So Mason pulled them all out, and Sam. The two helpers that helped them down the mountain, y'all are the best. So, but that was a cool thing too, because we get to see leadership pop up in the kids and see how they take care of themselves without our asking. It was really a cool experience. Was that in Lubbock or?
That's in Colorado Springs.
Oh.
It's just random pumpkin on the road, so we stopped to make sure with the other church.
Oh, because that was without our website. And then we saw some plastic dinosaurs outside a gas station, a Colorado local gas station. They're like, hey, look, this is where the gas came from. So the kids all wanted to take a picture with that. Well, the kids, gave in. And then on Friday we had a free day. And I had talked about going and swimming in a lake, and they're like, oh, it's going to be too cold for that. And we talked about hiking, but we didn't want to do something that was too extensive. So Suzette found this really cool watering hole that was like a half-a-mile hike from the parking lot. And we go there, and we walk up, and I see these people jumping off this cliff, and I'm like, oh my God, what did we just take these kids to? This looks like the most dangerous outing that we could have taken them to. But after seeing the people do it and going down, there was lines of like 20 to 50 people. I went with a couple of our senior boys, and we tested it out, and we all decided that it was safe enough for anyone who was willing to try it out. We called some parents and got some parents okays, just in case. But we had the most brave little girl, Maybe, over here who jumped 20 feet into the watering hole, and it was just the most spectacular thing to see her overcome her fear. It was a lot like Brooke overcoming her fear with the ladders. Just seeing the growth in our kids this week was amazing. I mean, it made every moment of the long drive and the tough nights on an air mattress in a school, it made it all worth it. It was so great. And then we had a quick lunch on the way back at a Mexican food restaurant. Don't get Mexican food in Colorado. And then you can kind of see Pikes Peak here behind us, but it was getting a torrential downpour. We were planning on driving up Pikes Peak that last day on Friday after the watering hole, but the rain was just so awful we weren't going to risk that mountain.
It literally was hailing while we were going into the restaurant.
And anyone who's driven up that mountain, it is a scary drive. I had my wife drive it because I was too scared. When we were there a few years ago, and on the way down, they check your brakes for the temperature, and you have to stop like 3 or 4 times to let your brakes cool off because it's such a steep hill. So doing that in rain would have been insane. So instead, we went to Garden of the Gods, and we hung out there, which is a beautiful view. I know a lot of people, this is some of the most beautiful rock formations that you'll ever see in your life. It's like a wonder of the world for the U.S. So we hiked around there a good bit. We got a little bit of rain, but it was just a light rain, and it really cooled it off. I mean, we were really struggling in that 77 degrees with the light drizzle, in the middle of July. Yeah. We went and saw Suzette taking selfies. That was great. And then the last night we did a talent show. And we had all the kids sign up, and some of the adults signed up, and then some groups signed up. And we did karaoke's and readings and plays, and Charlene and Mamie and Bridget did this really cool reenactment. It was so cool. Everyone was stunned. Like the judges, their jaws dropped as they saw Bridget and Mamie perform. They're like, did we just get a full professional show here? But they ended up singing, everyone sang Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond together, and we had the whole room going, and it was just such a surreal experience to be followed by a worship where we had, so after was it before or after the talent show?
The worship was first, so I have that, this is kind of talking about how we have worship every night also.
Yeah, so we had worship every night, we would go to the work sites, come back, you have like an hour or 2 to hang out, take showers. Then we would do dinner, then we would go into worship, and then small groups, and then you have another hour or 2 to hang out before bedtime. So in this worship time, we would go, and they had people who were in college for worship ministry. So that pianist, she's actually not a pianist. She had gone and learned the piano 2 weeks before she started working with summer camp. Which she was in school for music, played a bunch of instruments, so she could sight read music and all that. But she came and learned the piano, and her voice was really beautiful. And we had a great guitarist and a great drummer. And it was really cool to see this experience, which I grew up with. in Yes and in Happening and at Camp Allen, we have this kind of worship and we have this kind of rhythm. Sadly, I don't have that kind of rhythm personally, so I can't bring it to the kids, but it was cool to bring the kids to an experience like this. In the last night, actually, we had in worship, we broke out into our small group, our work sites. So we were mixed with members of other churches. And we got around in a circle, and our objective was to pray over each individual member of the group and have 2 people pray over each person, and it would kind of be a rotating group. But what happened with my group, and I had the older boys and some of the younger boys as well, and Brooke was in our group, but you were only there for the last day, so I mean, I guess I'll include you. But we all got around, and instead of just 2 people praying, everybody wanted to say something over each of the kids. And so each person would go around, and even people who aren't extremely religious, who don't really come to church sometimes, and who just come because their friend brings them, they were praying over these kids, and they were wanting to speak up, and they were moved to talk about how they felt and what they'd seen this week. And you could see the impact, because when we went back into worship, the groups were all kind of separated on the first day. We had, the Kansas City boys in the back right, we had the Sioux City group on the top right, and then you had the Calvary guys on the left. And then by the end of it, we were all mixed up. And after we had done that prayer circle, we went out there, and all the kids, without, being asked, started creating this huge ring. So we had a ring of people that were all swaying back and forth, and we had to move around the instruments and let them keep playing. But we had the whole room circled with all 3 churches intermingled with the leaders, with the college staff that was supporting it. And it was just such an amazing experience. Wouldn't have been able to do it without the adults or without the kids or the trust of the parents giving us the kids to take up there. So, yeah. So, kids, come on up here and line up. And so, Peggy, do you have a question? Yeah, so I did kind of explain the geography, but I didn't say where we were staying. So we were on that hill. We were at a Christian school. It was a private school that kind of stair-step tiered up this hill. It was a high school all the way down through 12th grade, and we stayed in these classrooms, and then we would go down to the showers in the gym to shower each night.
Colorado Christian School.
Yeah, Colorado Christian School. It was right next to Colorado University, Colorado Springs campus. So we bordered the college campus. It was really cool. And that mountain that we went up to was actually in the college campus. We got to walk around parts of the campus. So we'll go through, and each kid will have their yay God. So this, when we would go to worship, each of the groups would get together, each of the work sites would get together, and they would discuss where did they see God today at the work site. And they would go and volunteer one person from that group who would go up and they would share with the group. So we'd have 4 people each day sharing the yay God from each work site. So we would ask the kids to prepare their yay gods for the week as a whole. And so some of them have written notes. Some of them will say things that you won't understand, Bobby. But that's okay. We're all having fun. So we will there are 3 kids who aren't here today, but we'll have the 10 who are here.
Yes.
Good morning. The thing I liked best about this mission trip was branching out and meeting new people. I got to meet people that I wouldn't have met in any other circumstance, and it was just so cool how you become a family that week because you don't have anyone else that you know there. So you just make such bonds with people that last. You remember that week for the rest of your lives, and it's just so cool because I want to be friends with those people if they went to my school or under other different circumstances. My yay God is hearing people pray that I've never heard pray before. I think it. I got to hear people pray that I've never heard pray before, and that I didn't know. They probably may not have the strongest faith with God yet, and I think that encompasses what the mission trip is about, is just strengthening your faith with God and being able to pray in front of other people and by yourself, and just strengthening that devotion that you can do throughout the week. And it's just really cool to hear. It really moved me during prayers that we did on the last day, and hearing people pray that I don't think have prayed out loud ever in their lives before. So I just thought that was really cool.
My God was the old guy whose house we painted. I think his name was Mr. Ross. Every day he would come out and play the guitar for us, which is really fun. And I also had a conversation with him, which is super nice. My favorite part about mission trip was talking to everybody on the site from my favorite part about mission trip was talking to everybody on the work sites and getting to know them more and learning about them and stuff. Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Bobby. So I don't know if they explain what Yay God is. Basically, it's where you saw God. My Yay God was Josh already talked about this, but on the last day, we all prayed over each other in our groups. It was really special to me just because everybody thought this in their head when they prayed to God silently, but we couldn't hear this until the last day. This is what they were always thinking about us, and it was just beautiful and everything like that. It was great. My favorite part, we had a bunch of what's it called again? I forget what the word. Inside jokes. It was really fun. We talked about them on the website and stuff, and gave her Beanzoid.
Beanzoid.
Hi guys, my name is Harrison Milford, and my Yay God at the mission trip was probably although I've been to Garden of the Gods before, I was too young to remember, but seeing that in the rock formation was pretty cool. So I thought that was really interesting to see and how those were made. But yeah, that's my Yay God.
Hi, my name is Mamie. And my Yay God was the people. It was really fun to get to know everybody and make friends with everybody. Yeah. I liked worship every night and our free day.
Hello, I'm Kaylee. My Yay God was all the churches getting along, and I loved hanging out with the others, including the other adult leaders that were there. And I also I loved seeing the owner's face light up after we were all done with his house, and I thought that was really amazing.
Hi, I'm Mason. And my Yay God was when we went to the watering hole, we talked with another church that was not a part of Next Step, and we really enjoyed talking with them. And right before we left, they ran in front of our van and told us that they wanted to pray with us, and I thought that was really beautiful. I like that. And the best thing about mission trip for me was transforming the guy's house to make the neighborhood look 10 times better.
Hello, my name is Conrad. Okay, my yay God was how we took time, and not just a day or an hour, an entire week to help some people that we don't even know in an entirely different state. And that person, not only were we helping them, but they were also helping others at the same time. And I'm like, wow, what goes around comes around, huh? But I think my favorite thing was, this is entirely random. I was singing a sea shanty in the hallway, and then somehow we just got a little mini choir and we all started singing like 5-10 more sea shanties before going to bed. The entire hallway could hear it, by the way, so that was fun. All right.
Hi, I'm Sam. My yay God would be the crazy things that we did in the everyone screaming help at all the every single restaurant we went to at the drive-thru. Whenever we'd get to the window, they would all scream help.
They didn't just yell help. They said, help, she promised me candy. And the lady just shut the door. I'm like, oh.
But my favorite thing was getting to meet a bunch of new friends and the experiences that I've made along the way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Molly. My yay God was seeing how happy all the people living in the apartments were after we fixed their houses and painted it. And my favorite part of the trip was seeing how one of the other youth group leaders from Iowa, how easily he made friends by singing Living on a Prayer out the window at a random 6-year-old couple, and them singing along was really funny. Yeah.
All right, Brandy, what was your yay God?
Hi, my name is Brandy. So I'm gonna try not to cry. But my yay God is these kids. They truly are the best kids. And I said that like every day because they really are. I'm gonna cry. They work hard, they show up with positive attitudes, and we got so many compliments about our kids. They really are the best kids. If y'all, they're just the best. And that was my yay God. And my favorite thing was just getting to go on the mission trip. I can't pick one point where I just enjoyed over the other. Maybe I did really enjoy programming every night, and because that was just kind of a time to reflect back on everything that we did on the day. But it's just wonderful that these kids do. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm Suzette. Hi. My yay God, I would say, kind of tacking on with Brandy, was how much these kids are just so awesome. I had to be really careful, and that's why I'm trying not to say amazing. So we came up with so many different words besides that. But they are, if Brooke would say, bubblicious. These kids are bubblicious. They are so awesome. What I think for me, seeing God's way is how, if any of the leaders need anything or any of each other, they helped everybody, not just the people on the mission trip, other people. Our group, I will tell you, first day, who raised their hand to cook breakfast the very first day? Calvary kids. Anytime they were asked, Calvary's hands were up. And I think at one point they were like, is there anybody besides Calvary that wants to volunteer? But that's how cool these kids are. Being on the mission itself is just really watching kids that have never been on a mission trip. Is you see them, like in the car, they're nervous, they're scared, building up to it. By the time we're coming home, where are we going next year? This was so cool. I can't wait to go again. And that to me is they put in God's work with their own hands, as our saying is, but watching them work. Not one of them complained about anything. And that is, they went out and did. They had to paint, they painted. They had to scrape, they scraped. So it was that, I think that's my yay God and yay.
Howdy everyone, my name's Josh. So when I was a youth here in 10th grade, Mr. Hillis was leading youth group. Thank you, Mr. Hillis, for having the patience for us. We went out to a mission trip called Big Stuff out in Destin, Florida. And we had Jaime Garcia help, and Catherine Clark help, and my mother help. And we had a full van of kids going out to another state to learn about God and see how we could fit into that picture. Now, our mission trip wasn't really service. It was more, we would go into programs and do all these small groups and do all this stuff. This was getting these kids out there and actually getting their hands dirty on site with, like what Conrad said, with people that they don't even know, that they didn't even know existed the week before, and that they may never see again. But they made an impact that made a difference. When we went out there, we had a bunch of small group, like a couple of friends here, a few friends there, some new friends here. But when we came home, we were one group, Calvary. And that was what made this week special for me. That was my yay God, seeing the cohesion, the connection, the understanding. People who really were annoyed by each other, people who thought that they were at ends, became great advocates of each other, great supporters, and great friends. And it was so moving to see that in today's youth, and it reminds me why we keep coming back. And I encourage all of y'all to start thinking, because as Suzette said, we're going somewhere next year. So any adults who have never been on a mission trip, I'm coming to you next year, knocking on your door. Definitely. You know, all the other three leaders had kids there. I was the only one that didn't have a kid there. I felt a little singled out. But by the end, I felt, you know, like a piece of it. So we've got a few more slides. So on our way back, we made a quick stop at Texas Tech, took a picture by the sign. The cops told Suzette she couldn't park there, and we had to drive away without the kids, but that's okay. You know, we came back for them. Yeah, Brandy and Charlene were with them. And then we stopped at a Whataburger in Waco. Yeah, you go to Whataburger. And we couldn't find Baylor University. I didn't really want to find Baylor University. But, you know, they're out there somewhere. We were real close. Sorry if any of you are Baylor fans. Sorry. And then we made it home after a little over 2,000 miles. And my car had like 48 hours of driving. Suzette drove even more. So, yep. And on this last slide, we have some thanks. So, I'm not going to say thank you to myself, but we can say thank you to Father Ralph for granting us the permission to pursue this. I remember talking to Father Ralph in February. So this was about 5 months before we were to set out. And so definitely a little late for planning a summer mission trip. But we came to Father Ralph with a plan, and we said, this is how we're going to fundraise, this is how we're going to action it, this is who's going to support it, and this is where we're going to go. And we made it happen. These kids made it happen. So we also need to give thanks to these kids for going out to all those fundraisers and committing to the mission trip. Yeah. And then we also, we came to the Calvary Foundation a few months before we had the silent auction in May, and we said, hey, if we can reach our fundraising goal, would you be able to match it? And they graciously said they could. And that made the mission trip possible. Without the foundation, we would not have been able to do the ministry and outreach that we did. So So we also need to thank the foundation as well. And then lastly, we need to thank all of you for coming out. While we were working the car wash, while we were working the silent auction, none of that would have been possible without your attendance, without your support, and without your belief that we were doing something important with these kids. So thank you all for supporting us. All right, 1, 2, 3, thank you. Yeah, a lot of thank yous. Yeah, without the parents' trust, letting us take them there to jump off cliffs, it wouldn't have been possible. So thank you. And, all right, we're gonna take a picture, and then I think.
I would like to, you see Bob has a Strive shirt on. He is our vestry liaison, and he really worked with us between vestry and the youth group to make this also possible. So we want to really say thank you to Bob. Didn't put in the slideshow because he ran away. So thank you for coming. We are so glad you all came out to hear about our wonderful mission trip that we went on, and we can't wait to do more. The youth, their next outreach is August 31st. We're headed downtown to the Beacon to go work at the Beacon and then go to the cathedral for church services. All right, thank you.